Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Active passive voice series, day 18. Today you will learn how to convert passive voice into active voice. Students, as you know, active voice and passive voice are two different ways of constructing sentences based on the relationship between the subject and the object of the verb. In active voice, the subject of the sentence performs the action expressed by the verb and the object receives that action. The structure of an active voice sentence is usually subject plus verb plus object. As far as passive voice is concerned, in passive voice, the subject of the sentence receives the action expressed by the verb and the object becomes the focus of the sentence. The structure of the passive voice sentences is usually object plus verb plus subject. Students, in passive voice, the emphasis is on the action rather than the doer of the action. It is often used when the doer of the action is unknown, unimportant, or when the speaker or writer wants to shift the focus of the recipient of the action. Students, in today's lesson, I will guide you about the active passive voice. I will explain you how to convert passive voice into active voice. Okay? Passive voice into active voice with the help of the examples. Okay? Let's start today's lecture. Let me show you some examples. Okay. Change into active voice. These sentences are already in passive voice and we will change them into active voice. Okay. These sentences are from past tense. Alright. As you know, in past tense we use, in active voice we use, in positive sentences we use second form of the verb. Okay. Let's start. The novel Great Expectations was written by Charles Dickens. Okay, so how we will convert this? As you know, in active voice, we use second form of the verb. In active voice, we use second form of the verb. Okay, this sentence is in passive voice. How? Look, because was and written, third form of verb is used with was. Was is the helping verb and third form of verb, past participle, is used. So it indicates that this is the passive voice of simple past tense. Alright, so how we will convert this passive voice into active voice? We will use second form of the verb. As you know, subject will take the place of object and object will come in the place of subject. Okay, in the passive voice and in active voice, you know, first we will write down the subject. Okay, Charles Dickens wrote the novel Great Expectations. Alright, next example is he was brought up by his sister. He was brought up by his sister. So how I will convert it into active voice? His sister brought him up. His sister brought him up. As I told you, in active voice, we use second form of the verb. In affirmative sentences, keep in mind in past indefinite tense. And you know that past indefinite tense is also known as simple past tense. Okay. In affirmative or positive sentences, we use second form of the verb. Alright. So his sister brought him up. This is the active voice. Alright. Next example is the man was recaptured by soldiers and taken away. Soldier recaptured and took the man away. You can see I have used second form of the verb here. Alright. Let me show you another example. He was still wanted by the police in England. He was still wanted by the police in England. You know that this is the passive voice because was is used and third form of verb is used. Okay, it indicates that this is simple past tense, passive voice of simple past tense. So how I will convert this into active voice? The police still wanted him in England. The police still wanted him in England. All right. Next example is he was caught by the police. He was caught by the police. The police caught him. The police caught him. All right. Another example, he was sentenced to death by the judge. He was sentenced to death by the judge. The judge sentenced him to death. The judge sentenced him to death. Another example, Pakistan was loved by me. Pakistan was loved by me. How I will convert it into active? I loved Pakistan. I loved Pakistan. As you can see, in active voice, look, I is subject. I is our subject. Love is main verb. Okay. And Pakistan is object. Okay. And this is active voice. So, as you know, in passive voice, subject will take the place of object and object will come in the place of subject. And we will always use past participle in passive voice. Okay, in active voice, in simple past tense, we will use in affirmative sentences second form of the verb. Okay, in simple past tense, affirmative sentences, we use second form of the verb, and when we convert it into passive, then we will use was and were as helping verbs, and we use third form of the verb, means we use past participle. Use of by is there, and subject will take the place of object and object will come in the place of subject. You know that? Okay, and in negative sentences, we use did not as helping verb in active voice. Okay, in my next lecture, I will explain you negative sentences and interrogative sentences of simple past tense. We use did not as helping verb in active voice in simple past tense. All right, in negative sentences, and in passive voice we use was and were as helping verbs in passive voice along with third form of the verb. All right. So what you have learnt in today's lesson, today I taught you how to convert passive voice into active voice, okay, of simple past tense. You know that in simple past tense, active voice, we use second form of the verb, and in passive voice, we use was and were with third form of the verb. All right. And you know that active voice and passive voice are two different ways of constructing sentences based on the relationship. In this, we talk about the relationship between the subject and the object of the verb. All right. So, I hope you will like this lecture. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget